How many people use domain names? How many have registered your own domain names or something?
This is a savvy audience.
Yeah, okay. So, all the domain names in the world are unique. And ICANN is the custodian of the unique identifiers of the internet, of which there's only 3. So the internet looks like one place. Why does it look like one place? Because of the unique identifiers. So internet addresses are unique, okay? IPv4, IPv6, every address is unique. Every domain name is unique. And the settings and protocol registries that we take from the ITF, we're also the custodians of, like what port is used for what. 53 for DNS, 179 for Border Gateway Protocol, whatever else it is. There's thousands of settings. So ICANN is the global steward of all those through a multi-stakeholder body. That's huge. I mean, the 3 meetings we have a year, there's typically 1,000 to 2,000 people at. And there's domain name registries, there's corporations, there's telcos, there's over 160 governments advise ICANN just on the Government Advisory Committee. I mean, that's why I was thrilled when I got the job. I showed up and a room this big was full of governments, and everyone in the group was representing a different government. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So it's like a miniature United Nations for the internet. And so ICANN is a governance body. Its only operating role is it operates the root of the internet. So we'll talk about the architecture of the root real quickly, or of the domain name system. So when you say example.com, or akamai.com or mit.edu, the dot is ICANN, is the root. There's only one root zone file. ICANN is a steward of it, following very clear rules. It has .com in it, it has .us, .edu. Those are called the top level domains, okay, which is over 1,000 now, because when I was CEO, we opened up the new GTLD program and got over 1,000 new GTLDs in. We also added encryption to the root of the internet with what's called DNSSEC. We also added internationalized domain names, so you can have script in Sanskrit and different languages, were things that we did during my term. But so the root zone file is the official top level list. Then .com is a registry. So VeriSign operates .com, roughly 100 million domain names. And in the world, there's like 400 million domain names now in total. But everyone is unique. And then the policies are about who pays who, how do you get charged. ICANN gets a small fee. If you go to GoDaddy and you register a new domain name, you probably see ICANN fee, 25 cents, or whatever it is. The registrar gets some money, so that's like GoDaddy, but the registry, if they sell.com, is VeriSign. So it's 3 levels. You've got the root zone file ICANN creates. Each registry has a zone file of like 100 million names at VeriSign, but fewer in a country like Canada, probably like, 5, 10 million. But they're all unique, and that's why the internet looks like one place. Now, in the DNS records, you not only have the web, okay, what's the web server, but the DNS record has a lot of information. It has the email server, has a whole set of rich information. And that system was designed to make the whole world connected, and it worked. So the slogan we came up with, actually a community member came up with when I became CEO, is I said, I need a 5 to 6 word slogan on Twitter, now X. And within 2 hours, Rebecca McKinney came back and said, one world, one internet, everyone connected. So that's what ICANN does. An amazing body. I was really honored to serve it and learned a lot.
That's awesome. So just in terms of scope, ICANN is about $145 million in revenue per year. They maintain about of the order of 200 to 300 million website addresses like ensemble.com, akamai.com, and so on. They charge anywhere from 25 cents to 50 cents to either renew every year or to register. So it's about 50 cents, 300 million websites. That comes to about 150 million in revenue. About 400 employees, out of which 320 are just staff dealing with litigation and policy. Only 80 of them, less than 80 of them are engineers.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's good to know. So huge respect for everything that's works under ICANN. Now the question is, there are only 300 million websites for which you have this massive UN-like organization. We could have trillions of agents, right? And they all are going to not just, so websites are pretty static, as you know, right? Thanks to Akamai and others, the endpoints change here and there, but in general, they're pretty static. The endpoints are pretty static.
Yes, they are.
As opposed to agents that are going to change all the time. What they're serving is going to change. Their endpoints are going to change. If you're just walking with your phone, our friends from AT&T are here. Is Mike here? And we're working with GSMA, of course. Endpoints are changing every minute. Your metadata is changing all the time. You might change saying, hey, today I'm willing to serve East Coast, but tomorrow I'm going to serve the West Coast, and so on. So the US East versus US West versus, South, all those things are going to change. So your metadata for your agent is changing possibly every minute, and you have trillions of them. And websites, you can think of them as a spoke and a half. Although you have like billions of users, there are only 300 million websites. So think of them as websites are a hub, and everybody's a spoke, which is talking to this. As opposed to agent, which is like an n-square problem. So imagine a trillion agents talking to potentially a trillion agents, right? So that's 10 to the 12, 10 to the 12, 10 to the 24. I forgot what the trillion.
It's big. Call it Google or something.
Something like that, yeah. So the 10 to the 24 potential link between these agents. And by the way, they're bidirectional. When you have a website, I call the website doesn't call me back. But when I have an agent, it's more like a telephone call. Anybody can call my agent at any moment, right? So we need a completely new architecture to support the equivalent of ICANN for agents.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think Sam is here in the audience, Sam Sharaf from Sam is here. So Sam is the inventor of a concept called agent cards, which are like the metadata for agents. And you came up with that like about 2 years ago, I'm going to say roughly, year and a half ago?
Yeah, 1.5 years.
Yeah, 1.5 years ago. And Sam is a major supporter of the whole NANDA effort. So we need a whole new mechanism. So in partnership with Akamai and Cisco and TCS and SCL Tech, we have been working with all these players over the last 18 months or so on what that could look like. And somebody back there in the blue shirt, you actually read our paper, DNS upgrade or switch. It's always nice to be a professor and see people who are actually reading your papers. As opposed to just following us on Twitter. It's like, but did you say that? So it's always good to do that. So question is now, what does it mean, Rod, given that you have seen how amazing but also how painful it is to run a 400 people organization? What can be a simpler version of an ICANN for AI agents?
Terrific question. And it really forced me to think, having the opportunity to come here and speak today with you, Ramesh, as well as the conversations we had in New Delhi at the AI Summit and other places. So I'm a systems thinker, and I don't have an answer to this. I think we're going to have to figure it out, and NANDA is leading the charge in terms of thinking of the concepts. Well, let's talk about the system for a moment. Let's assume it's going to be trillions of agents. I agree, 100%. The only question is, which year we hit that time. I guess it'd be before 2050 for sure. And we've got about roughly 50 billion devices on the internet now connected. So it's manifold from that. So it's a much bigger problem. The internet was born with a central registry. So Bob Kahn and Ben Cerf invented the internet, and Bob, both are friends of mine. Bob had a green index card where he put the university name and came up with a number. And then every university that was added to the internet, he added a new name on the card and a new number. It was all done by pen, and that was the central registry for the internet. But it started in DARPA, but from the very beginning there was a seed called the root, and that was the root zone file effectively was that index card. Then it got too big, and then he hired John Postel, a grad student at USC ISI, to start coordinating all these domain names. And then it got handed over from USC, which under a Department of Defense grant, to ICANN as a multi-stakeholder body, because the UN didn't want it, by the way. IT said, we don't want that. We don't
That
need
was
it.
in 1998, very late. I mean, John Postel started in 1983. World Wide Web was about 91 to about 94. 94 is when World Wide Web Consortium was set up here at MIT. Yahoo, Netscape, Google, everybody was already online, and we did not have a global neutral entity to run the registration of website. It was run through one file, host.txt.
And one guy, who's an amazing guy, by the way, amazing engineer, and had a beautiful philosophy that ICANN is used till today. So ICANN actually determines who gets to operate the domain name registry in countries. In India, US, ICANN makes the decision, the ICANN board. And through a very rigorous process that involves community participation. Otherwise, in third world, some small countries, you might get a new leader elected and they might give it to their cousin. Oh, you take over the domain names and take all the money that comes off that. That would create chaos on the internet, trust me. And ICANN's job is security and stability of the internet. The only big threat to it happened in 2012 very quickly, Operation Global Blackout, when Anonymous threatened to take the whole global internet dark. It was issued February 12, 2012, and I was in charge of coordinating the global response to keep the internet up. which was a fascinating thing we're not going to go into now. Back to systems thinking, it's going to be trillions. We're not starting with one seat here, okay? So Bob Kahn had it, we had that one index card in a file. We've already got registries going up all over the place, right? Every control panel provider, every platform provider has a catalog or registry of the agents created in their environment, okay, and their sandbox. These catalogs are growing already. Then the parties are deciding how to go and communicate with others. There's discovery to go find agents, and then you have to contract and decide. So it's a peer-to-peer marketplace, and there's a plethora of registries, as many as people want to create, right? That's the reality. Okay, ServiceNow is a huge player with their platform, Salesforce, Agentforce. So you have those registries out there, and what we're talking about, what we need, there is this need to have a registry of registries, or a catalog of registries, or a master registry. There's going to be a need for the standards of the description of what those agents are, like Sam is working on, and to have those adopted as a standard. There's going to be a need for cryptographic standards that are done as well here, and attestation, as you said. So all the 4 choke points you said are right. So I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go. I think it's fascinating what Maria's done here. She's on the front row, who wrote the code for the first prototype registry at NANDA, and so you're thinking through these things, which is great. But it's going to be a decentralized solution. I think you can get something going here, and now you're already getting the thought leadership and people moving, but I think it's going to be some kind of decentralized movement that you want to move into some kind of standards bodies. Something I just thought of actually this morning preparing for here was thinking about, well, how could ICANN play? And everyone asked me that, right? Because everyone would like to see a global registry, and they'd like to be part of creating it or controlling it. And I've said, ICANN is focused on unique identifiers of the internet, okay? The agentic identifiers are not unique, because anyone can create them, anyone can name them. They are not unique. So they don't fall on ICANN's remit. We've already had this discussion amongst the elders of ICANN, former CEOs and board members of, should ICANN weigh in and do something in AI? And we said, no, it's really pure application layer, and DNS is an application layer, but it's to coordinate level 4, in the OSI stack, the TCP/IP layer. So, but what I thought of last night was interesting is, in the DNS files, you've got identification of the email server, you got identification of a web server, you could just potentially have the identification of the agent server. Now, to do that, if you wanted that to happen, IETF is the body who has to publish that standard, because ICANN conforms to the IETF principles and partnerships deeply with Internet Society that supports IETF. And there are discussions in IETF that I'm not tracking, by the way, haven't dug into it. There's discussions about what can be done in registries. But that's still not going to solve all the stack you've identified. I'm just mentioning it's a way to put a hook potentially into the DNS that could work for the agentic world. And it'd be pretty simple, but that would probably still take a year or two at least to push through IETF once a number of parties want to do it. And then, Sam, like the work that you're doing could help define, what do the resource records look like in that. And so anyway, I don't know where it's going to go, but we need to have some decentralized registry that's going to tie into other things. The other thing I want to talk about is this for a second, is look at OpenClaw, okay? And as a security guy, as a tech guy, OpenClaw is so cool. As a security guy, what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare. Something that just it opens up all the resources on your machine and could publish it to the world, do all kinds of perverted, horrible, nasty things to your company. This is acknowledging how powerful the tool is, how clever it is, but here's the fundamental problem is how open it is. And one of the issues we want to think about is like, when I got to use Maria and her team's maritime tool, is you go on Telegram, link it to Telegram, and you go name your bot Telegram with botfather, okay? Botfather, that's a new naming system. But that's a new channel for getting data out of your corporation that you're not seeing because it's hidden in the encrypted Telegram channel or the encrypted WhatsApp channel. And your enterprise apps don't normally run that way, right? So, but that just shows you, because a key part of the infrastructure are the AI gateways. So, and I co-founded a company that's a leader in API security called Sequence Security. It's raised about $150 million. It has an AI gateway as well, and arguably the best AI gateway, which is sitting in the enterprise, and you map and decide what agents you'll talk to and not, and then monitor all of it and log it in real time, every single transaction. Because that's what you're doing in APIs in the first place, right?